It's Wednesday, September 20th. Thanks for joining us on Up to the Minute. I'm Dr. Amy Tan, Dean of HCC's English and Communications. I'm filling in for Todd Tuplanis today. And on this lovely, lovely morning, I am joined by Dr. Natalie Garza, HCC history professor, who's going to help me co-host today. Good morning, Natalie.
Good morning. We're live on the Houston Community College District Facebook page. That's Houston Community College, not HCC. We're also on YouTube, and we're also on X, formerly Twitter, LinkedIn, and on HCCTV at noon, 5, and 10 p.m. Monday through Friday.
That's right. Everyone can join us every day. We look forward to it. Today, as we continue our recognition of September being Workforce Development Month, we're talking to someone from the Business COE who can help our students become more familiar with the law. Welcome, Dr. Scott Meyer, HCC Instructor of Paralegal Technology, and also with Scott Meyer Law.
Morning, Dr. Tan. Thanks for having me.
It's great to see you, and we'll be right with you. Before we get to Dr. Meyer, for Hispanic Heritage Month, Natalie will speak with someone who can give us a unique perspective on the 60th anniversary of the JFK Association. Mikaela Selley is an archivist, public history consultant, curator, Heritage Society with the JFK exhibit. Welcome to the show, Mikaela.
Thank you for having me. Excited to share the exhibit today.
And I'll turn it over to Natalie.
Thank you for being with us, Mikaela. I want to first read a quote from JFK's nephew that's in the exhibit that you put together. And that exhibit's a civil rights milestone, President Kennedy's visit with LULAC in Houston. So the quote is, "President and Mrs. Kennedy's remarks were a pivotal moment for Hispanic American civil rights. The president's words of inclusivity and equity carry on as part of our family's legacy to help build a more just and peaceful world for all." It's really remarkable. This was 60 years ago, and we are still struggling with inclusivity today, but JFK was working hard for it even back then. So can you tell us a little bit about November 21st, 1963, which was so defining? Can you tell us what happened on that day?
Yes, President Kennedy, the First Lady, Jacqueline Kennedy, Vice President LBJ, and Lady Bird Johnson were invited to Houston to visit with the League of United Latin American Citizens at the Rice Hotel. The Kennedys were already set to attend another event in Houston, and LULAC, a civil rights organization, at that point, 3 decades of activism, felt this would be a wonderful opportunity for Kennedy to show his support for Mexican American causes and civil rights issues. Secret Service agents told the LULACs that they might get a wave, that President Kennedy would come down the elevator at the Rice Hotel and possibly wave, but the LULAC organization was prepared for anything. And instead, they sat down and sat with LULAC for 17 minutes. It was an incredible, historic moment for many reasons, but one being that it was so validating and respectful to spend that much time with this organization that evening. There were mariachis. The First Lady addressed the crowd in Spanish, and then, as we know, the tragic event the next day occurred. So it was a historic moment with a lot of so much meaning for that community.
Yes, and I mean, I know that this is something that is really, cemented in the history of Mexican Americans in Houston. And of course, 15 hours later, history was made in another tragic way. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, so the Kennedys, we have their Texas trip schedule on display, which it's really difficult to look at because you can see the path that they were supposed to take home, and obviously that did not happen. 15 hours after the event at Rice Hotel with the LULACs. President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. And so there's a portion of the exhibit dedicated to that moment and how LULACers who were there that night reacted to the news. In particular, one entire wall has the photographs collected by a gentleman, Alex Arroyos, who was there that evening. As soon as he heard what happened, he ran to the Houston Chronicle, to the Post, to the press, and in the chaos that was happening in the newsrooms, obviously all over the country, he asked for photos from that evening to hold on to something of that night. And there's reference in the exhibit to the optimism still to say, okay, we will carry on and we will stay true to the Kennedy legacy and what he was trying to do for this community.
Yeah, I think that must have been a really big blow, feeling like you have an ally, on the national political level, and then the next day that's taken away.
Absolutely.
In addition to commemorating Kennedy's 60th anniversary visit with LULAC, what other themes does the exhibit highlight? Yes,
this night is such a great point to pull at all of the other threads that come off of that. So who is LULAC? What were they doing that led to this moment? And that is 30 years of civil rights activism in education, employment issues, housing issues. And then there's also what was going on in Houston. So a portion of the exhibit is dedicated to the history of the historic clubhouse, deemed a national treasure by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, located at 3004 Bagby Street. So having a space for conversations that lead to a moment like a presidential visit. And then, of course, we really wanted to highlight Jackie Kennedy's choice to speak Spanish that evening. We know she didn't have to. This was an organization that could flow between English and Spanish very easily. Several generation Tejanos, Texans. But her choice was very much about showing a respect for culture. We know that she could speak many languages. And so we really wanted to pull at all of these threads of who is LULAC, this historic clubhouse, and Jackie Kennedy's role.
And I know, you've put a lot of work into the exhibit. Can you tell me some highlights that you really, would like people to experience and enjoy when visiting?
Absolutely. There's so many special pieces. We are very fortunate to have a lot of items on loan. We have 3 archival collections represented, and then personal collections. The ones that stand out include a skirt worn by 4-year-old Lisa Herrera Moravitz, who was there. She was one of a few children that were allowed to be at the event. She was the granddaughter of the Master of Ceremonies, civil rights attorney John J. Herrera. There's an incredible photo of her standing next to Jacqueline Kennedy wearing this handmade sewn skirt that her mother had made just for the occasion. And the Herrera family allowed us to display that skirt. And it was just a testament to how special the evening was, how everyone was so excited about it. And we also have film footage from that evening. So you don't, beyond reading about it and seeing the photos, we have a little sort of living room, 1960s living room where you can sit and watch that evening and watch the excitement and hear the Viva Kennedy and the Viva Jackie shouts from the crowd. And then the last thing I'll point to are the manuscript by John J. Herrera. He wrote, after the tragic news, President Kennedy's assassination, he wrote a manuscript titled, "They Have Killed My President." And I enlarged those documents so that people can read them. He really does an incredible job. It's very emotional to read, but he walks you through the invitation, through that evening, and then through the next day. And it gives you such a an incredible sense of again, what all of this must have felt like for a community that was really struggling at that time. And so I'm hoping, I know it's a lot of words, but I'm hoping people really pay attention to those documents. I think they're very special.
Well, I am really looking forward to visiting this exhibit. And as I told you prior to the show, I can't wait to invite my classes. I'm teaching Mexican American history and Mexican American studies, humanities class this semester. So I think they'll get so much out of it. Thank you, Mikaela Selley, archivist, public history consultant, and curator for the Heritage Society, Houston's current JFK exhibit. We'll have more info about the exhibit in our post after the show.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted there and I'm talking away. Thank you, Natalie, so much. We're moving on now to Dr. Scott Meyer, HCC Instructor of Paralegal Technology and founder of Scott Meyer Law. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Morning, everybody. Great to be here.
Though most of us are familiar with lawyers, we often forget that paralegals and legal assistants support attorneys. We want to remind folks that HCC has a program to prepare students for this key role in our legal system. But before we get into our program, we want to ask you to share your own journey. I met you yesterday, and it's a inspiring story.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, that was a wonderful chat, and it's great to be back. Right. My journey to be who I've become as an academic and as a lawyer and as a trial lawyer and international criminal lawyer, these things really was a circuitous route that really began at community college. So when I just turned 17, I was in public high school in South Florida, the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area where I'm from, and something just wasn't clicking. I was doing okay, but I was unhappy, and I dropped out. And I knew that I wanted to continue my education, but I had no idea where. I had supportive family, but they were just sort of hands off. And I just made my way down to my local community college, Broward Community College. And I walked in, and a lovely advisor sat down with me and put the pieces together and said, let's start here. So I hadn't even had my GED yet, but they put me into some classes. I started my AA degree. And I excelled there in ways that I didn't in high school. And I loved it. And I had a community. I had friends. I had a nice melange, a collection of people with all varied, diverse life experiences coming at education differently. And that inspired me then. It inspires me now in how I reach and teach my students. And it was such a blessing and inspiration. I went on to take those lessons learned, those building blocks in community college, to go on to get 6 academic degrees. Now I went to Yale University. I'm one of the few Yale University students, I've been told, Ivy League students of the high school dropout community college, getting there, doing that, getting my PhD, getting 2 law degrees, practicing in the federal appeals court, all these other things, which is not to brag, but is to say, look at where you can come from when you kind of learn things. I don't want to say correctly, but you learn them differently. My trajectory would have been totally different if I would have went to maybe a state school or no school at all. And everyone's different. Everyone has their own calling in their own way. But my story is largely informed by what I learned during my time as a community college student and now as a community college instructor. And it's something I'm very passionate about. I think it's a great place to be. I think it's a very privileged place to be in the big picture. There's a lot of hope, optimism, and really the sky is the limit if you apply yourself. And I try to make that enthusiasm contagious to my students. And if I can do it, they can do it.
It's certainly contagious to us, Scott. So, I think it's wonderful that you are leading this program. You're part of this program, and you're an example to the students that they can achieve their goals starting here at Houston Community College. Tell us a little bit about the program structure and the delivery details.
Absolutely. So we have a 2-year AA degree. We also have 2 certificates. So it sort of depends where people might be on their professional and academic journey, what they want most out of the program. So it's varied. The AA degree will transfer smoothly into U of H and St. Thomas. It's a great preparation for things like criminal justice, political science, and perhaps law school one day for our students themselves, if they so choose. So the delivery is mostly at Central Campus, primarily in person, Southwest Campus as well, with some online options for some courses. There is a great co-op internship placement program that I help run along with instructor Ron Esposito, who is a department coordinator. He's wonderful. So we're all invested in getting hands-on practical experience for the students. In my lectures, I like to really speak to the ethical underpinnings of law, the theory on things like social justice. Things are very important to me, civil rights and change, and all of these really sort of ephemeral ideas that are worth pursuing. But at the same time, we have jobs to get and bills to pay. We're going to learn both. So we're going to do them together. And I think that makes for a good cocktail. So we're on the School of Business under Dean Connie Porter and the wonderful Dr. Juan Crawford as the chair. So that's where you'll find us. And those are some of the things that we're doing.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit more. What's the difference between a paralegal and a legal assistant?
It's a great question. It really is. And I want to give you a good answer by also saying there's no real concrete answer, much like we say in the law, it depends, right? So it's all contextual. And in this case, it would be sort of what designations and meaning do the managing partners of said law firm place on the position? Or perhaps if one works for the district attorney's office or a corporation, some oil and gas company would have people in contracts, people in litigation. So it's sort of what they say you're doing. Even the American Bar Association has sort of weighed in. The term most used is perhaps paralegal, but legal assistant is almost interchangeably depending on the duties. So paralegal, the term brings with it a sort of a gravitas of maybe it's a certain title that there's a certain weight to that title, perhaps. That people find meaning and pride in, which I think is great. But in some law firms, it's the legal assistants who have a slightly higher salary or have more compelling duties. So it really does depend where you're practicing. If that helps.
For sure. And, I know that it really does depend, right, on the firm and on the role. And I mean, I'm sure that as a paralegal or a legal assistant, you can still have a very high level of responsibility, and they're counting on your as you mentioned, ethics, discretion. So I can imagine that those are some pretty high responsibility demanding jobs.
Absolutely. Crucial to the team, because a law firm is a team. Even someone like myself, who's primarily a solo practitioner, you need even a small team is crucial. A paralegal and a legal assistant, even students that are currently in our classes, are doing very important work. They are assisting at trial preparation. They are writing legal memos that are getting signed off on by law partners. They are writing memos and things that could, in a sense, make their way in front of a judge, that people will take and use. In the state of Texas, we do allow paralegals to represent clients in court on limited matters, which I think is great. Social Security, disability, and evictions. So these are things, some marginalized communities here. Evictions, for example, such a frustrating and painful thing, and you can't necessarily afford an attorney at $200-300 an hour. Well, a paralegal can take that in and help. So there's a paralegal doesn't just answer phones. Answering phones is crucial. You want to do client intake. You want to have an ear for the issues as you speak. There's an opportunity to help someone there. But at the same time, it's a very exciting, you're really doing the work, which I think is quite exciting.
It sounds exciting to me. And so you're talking a little bit about what they do. What are the career prospects? And if you can give us some idea of some salary figures.
Sure. The career prospects are great and growing, and especially in large cities, especially like Houston, for example. In our co-op program we're doing right now, we have 2 large sections, and I think as of now we found everybody a spot. Everybody who wants one has a spot, and that speaks to the caliber of our students and the caliber of our program. We have a good reputation that people come in and work hard and do well. So I don't know of anybody looking for paralegal work who's applying themselves, who has prepared, who's having too much trouble after too long. For better or worse, we live in a litigious society with a lot of conflict and disagreement being handled in the courtroom where it should be handled. So there's opportunities there for sure. And the salaries, they vary, but once you get plugged in full-time work, it is not uncommon to start out around 40,000, go up to 50, 60, 70, 80, even higher the longer you're there, and the more crucial, the more value you provide to the firm. So one can make a very dependable, solid living doing work that's different each day. Yes, it's an office, but every case is different. Every client is different. And as well as being a paralegal, it's a great preparation to help people go into law enforcement, for example, or contracts in a corporation, which is sort of tangentially related, in addition to really the personal growth and the personal sharpness one gets by sort of knowing the rules of our society, and knowing the ones we might want to change and the ones we're working on and the ones that are there for our benefit as well. So I think overall it's a very edifying program.
Absolutely. And we talked a little bit about the personal skills, right? Public speaking, confidence. And so I really want to thank you, Dr. Scott Meyer, for coming and talking to us and sharing about your program. HCC Instructor of Paralegal Technology and founder of Scott Meyer Law. We'll have all of your info in our post after the show.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Real pleasure.
It was great to see you. Take care. And Natalie, we have some news and events and announcements to share with everyone. To start off, we have free haircuts back at Central Campus. HCC is offering free haircuts on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Tuesdays, from 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on Wednesdays. So that is today. Today is Wednesday. That's going to be at the J.B. Whiteley building on our Central Campus. Call for more info, and we'll have that number in our post after the show. What's happening with Career Services, Natalie?
Right. Career Services is having workshops hosted by Student Life. Mark your calendar for some Career Services workshops in the HCC Southeast Student Life Center, September 20th and 27th. So today, is a workshop, October 11th, and then November 1st. And check our post after the show for more info.
Recipes for Success. Student Life tips are back. Several helpful workshops are available to assist students in improving their skills or studying habits. Coming up, Artificial Intelligence, Ethics, and Responsibilities. That's going to be at 2 p.m. on Thursday, September 27th. This will be all virtual on Microsoft Teams. Be sure to check the post after the show for more info.
Fall Convocation, registration is open for HCC's Fall Convocation, so register today. This is mandatory for faculty. It's from 9 to 11:30 a.m. Friday, October 6th at NRG Arena, and check our post after the show for registration info.
Yes, it's mandatory for all employees who are scheduled to work on Friday, October 6th. So we'll see all of you there. We have a faculty exhibition coming up. Amy Beth Wright at HCC Stafford. This solo exhibition features the artworks of faculty member Amy Beth Wright, which is only one of the exhibitions open around the HCC system. This exhibition is being held through November 3rd. That is at HCC Stafford Fine Arts Gallery. Again, be sure to check our post after the show for the info. This is a free event, so I hope you'll come on out.
Also, Second Start, we're still having registration for that. That's, through fall, and it's in full swing. The advantages is you have smaller, more intensive semesters, and that's still available. All courses are offered in person and online. So we have a variety of options: online anytime, online on a schedule where you actually meet virtually. We have hybrid, we have in-person classes, and hybrid lab. To learn more about HCC program start dates and options to cover costs, go to hccs.edu/apply. Yes,
Second Start did actually begin this week. So there may be some classes that are Friday only or Saturday only that you can still register for. And we do have our F8B classes starting in a couple weeks. So those are still available for registration. Natalie, thank you so much for joining me today and making this a brighter day for me.
Yeah, thank you for co-hosting with me and being the lead on this.
Yeah, we're having fun here. We miss you, Todd, but we're having a chance here to test our wings a little. So coming up, We have the sign language interpreting program will be here tomorrow to discuss the upcoming Deaf Awareness Week, which I am so excited about. This is a program that reports up to me, and this is a really special week that we're having, and it's going to be September 25th through the 30th. So I hope you'll all look for the information on those events and come out and support our interpretation transliteration program and our ASL program. Those events are all going to be at Central Campus, and there will be one virtual one. So I want to thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.